Breaking the Silence is a podcast that dives into the intricate and often challenging topics of grief and loss within relationships. Through insightful discussions, the podcast aims to explore how pain can be transformed into purpose, leading to healing and growth. By addressing themes such as inner child work and the journey towards feeling alive once more, this podcast offers a beacon of hope for those navigating difficult emotions. Ultimately, Breaking the Silence aims to guide listeners towards moving forward and embracing all the blessings that life has in store as they embark on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual fulfillment. I'm your guide through this journey, Renee Wallace, and I invite you to join me as we break the silence surrounding grief and loss, transforming pain into purpose and finding hope in the healing power of storytelling.
Welcome to Breaking the Silence. I'm Renee, and this morning is actually a little bit different. I don't have Kelly with me. So grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's just chat for a little bit. And I do have to say, now that I'm used to doing it with Kelly, this feels super weird to just be you and me. But anyways, I'm excited to be here and just to chat with you. And so many things of we've been talking here a lot lately about relationships, about avoidance, dismissive, fearful avoidance, both types, and just getting even a lot of feedback from people. And yeah, so it's, the more we talk about things and the more feedback, the more things come up that I just feel like need to be brought out in the open, because awareness is the first piece. We cannot do anything until we have awareness. So I started thinking about relationships, and to be quite honest, they are so triggering, right? Like, you hear people all the time say that they feel like they are totally healed and they're good and all that because they're not in a relationship. And to be quite honest, I even felt like, yeah, I'm really good, and I have done a ton of healing work for sure. But it's interesting because when you are in a relationship, you are holding a mirror to each other. And that mirror is reflecting back the parts of you that still need healing, the wounds that are still there. And so it can become very uncomfortable because we're seeing that reflection of ourself, and maybe we don't like what we see, right? And so this may be more so, well, I'm going to address it more in the sense of maybe either way, but the fearful and the dismissive avoidant, they might look at that depending on where they're at. The fearful avoidant, look at that and be like, oh my gosh, this scares me to death. I don't know that I can do this, I don't want to feel this, because it does when it touches that wound, and that wound that the person isn't causing, but the wound from our childhood. We're just like, ugh, I don't like this. This does not feel good at all. So what do we do with that then? Just thinking about that, so here we have this reflection, and maybe it is reflecting back those parts of us that we know that we feel inadequate in, that we're seeing parts of ourselves that maybe we don't necessarily like. And it is not the other person's fault, but we really have an option there. We can choose to stay in the uncomfortable and learn to, for one, regulate our nervous system, because if our wounds being touched, we don't have to, we can choose to. stop and take a look and really question what's going on there, like what wound is being touched, like why, like what it's really about. Because it isn't typically about the current partner, it is just that they've touched something from the past. And so if we look at that, we can sit with it, we can start to work through it, we can regulate our nervous system, and try to bring ourselves back to a calm place. I do believe wholeheartedly we have to be doing the work. Like we have to, if we ever want to have a healthy relationship. And also, like maybe we're with somebody and the reflection back that we're seeing is they have a standard. And maybe we're looking and we're like, like they're a 10 out of 10 or whatever, and I'm not quite there. So again, we have a choice. Like we can either choose to shrink back and play small and stay stuck in our story because it is a story, and maybe you don't like hearing that, but that is the truth. It is a story that we are telling ourselves that we keep playing on a loop over and over and over again, and we look for things to confirm it, to say, see, I know it, which is sort of that victim mentality, right? Or we can choose to say, I see their standard and I want to rise up to that. I want to be better. I want to do better. And we can, challenge ourselves to grow in those ways, whatever that is. So I would also challenge you to really start to look at maybe the relationship that you're in. If you are anxious or fearful, avoidant or dismissive, whatever, and you're in a relationship with someone, that is obviously of the opposite attachment style, typically we attract the opposite, and really start to look at why that is. So say, for example, a dismissive avoidant, they didn't have somebody that was emotionally attuned to them, that showed them what it was to like really have that love and connection and talk about feelings and hear like, I love you, things like that. So then what they look for in their adult life is that in somebody else. They are looking for somebody that is basically the opposite of them, right? Because they don't know how to express that and do that, but they very much want that. So they look for somebody that will be that for them. But then once they have it, again, that mirror, right? It triggers all those wounds. Because here's the reality. I want to share this now. I'm thinking about it. But then I'll come back to like also with a fearful or an anxious person. So think about like, yes, like you want the healthy parts, you want all that love and connection and all the healthy things that you never had growing up. But yet there's also still this part inside of you that very much wants that familiar part that as a child, like whatever that was, because that's sort of who you believe, like in a way you are now, like, and I don't really know maybe the exact way to say that, but like, yes, you want the healthy love and connection and all those things. And yet there's this part inside of you until you heal that feels safe with the unhealthy stuff, like the safe with, keeping people at a distance or not expressing feelings or not being vulnerable because you knew that as a child. So all that feels like familiar and safe to you. So it's almost like you're looking still for whatever your mom or dad did to you, not did to you, but however they were in your childhood, you're still looking for that too. And so until we heal, we're going to keep trying to go back to that part too. So the more and more we heal, the more and more we can move to the side of the healthy and the connection and the love and the sharing and being vulnerable. So hopefully that helps. And then also, like for an anxious that maybe it was very inconsistent for them growing up. And so then they're looking for somebody that is very stoic and strong and just seems very put together and all that. So really, I just encourage you to like challenge yourself to think about why you are maybe in the relationships you're in, like what's really take the time to sit with. And I know it is uncomfortable. I know it is. But let yourself sit with it and really start to challenge your thoughts. So, as I sort of just wrap up my morning thoughts over coffee, I would just encourage you to really look at the relationships you enter into and why that is. Like, are you looking to rewrite a story from your childhood? Like, really think about it. Are you trying to change the ending? If you honestly look, does this seem familiar? And are you seeing patterns? And are you trying to rewrite a story from your childhood that you didn't like and you want a new ending to it? And then I would also encourage, if you are in an unhealthy relationship, that you maybe self-reflect on that and say, I need to focus on myself and take care of healing my wounds so that I'm not attracting unhealthy partners. And let them go do their work. You cannot do their work for them. I've always said that. I absolutely believe that you can love people where they're at and fully accept them for who they are. And yes, maybe you can show up in a more healed place and show up differently for them. But you also might have to look and say, no, this just doesn't work for me. Like, I've tried to meet you there and it doesn't work for me. And let them take their own healing journey, because you cannot do the work for them. And I do believe that if two people are doing the work, they absolutely can heal together. I think that is a beautiful thing. But if both people aren't aware and doing the work to heal, I think it can be an uphill battle, and the patterns would just continue to repeat over and over and over again. So, hopefully this is beneficial. And if you have any questions about attachment styles, if you have any questions about the dynamics, or you're in the situation, just know that you can reach out to me, that I see you, that I get it. I've walked through lots of different things with relationships, and that's part of why I'm even here, to share what I've learned and what I know and what I've experienced. And just know that I send you off with so much love, and I will talk with you soon.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Breaking the Silence. As we conclude our time together, let us carry forward the stories we've heard, the emotions we've shared, and the connections we've forged. Remember, the journey through grief and loss is not one we walk alone. In the silence, we find solidarity. In our shared experiences, we find strength. And in our vulnerability, we find resilience. If you or someone you know is navigating the complexities of grief, know that there is support available. Reach out, lean on your community, and remember that healing is not linear. It's a journey, and you are not alone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being a part of this community. Until next time, may you find peace in the spaces between the silence. Please be sure to subscribe below and leave us a review. If you'd like to connect further, you can find me on Instagram at Coaching with Renee.